What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, now I was just in Ticket TV's live stream, and he was talking about Frank Vogel, who's the head coach of Los Angeles Lakers. And Frank Vogel was talking about, he revealed something very interesting, and he said that the Lakers had not practiced in something like a week and a half prior to the practice they had Saturday. Now, according to an article I read, it was suggesting that the Lakers hadn't practiced, like had an actual real practice in 3 weeks, according to Frank Vogel. So either way, that's that doesn't sound like a team that is obsessed with winning, or a team that is locked in and wanting to win a championship. Look, maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. Maybe, I'm an old fuddy duddy and I grew up, watching and listening to these guys. And, I look, a lot of times when I do videos talking about LeBron James, man, sometimes I loathe to talk about this guy because he's such a controversial figure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got people who love the guy, you got people who worship the guy, you got people who loathe the guy, you got people who hate his guts and can't give him any credit, can't give him any compliments whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't even like talking about this guy lots of times. But and so sometimes, I try to be as fair as possible on top of LeBron James. But this time I just gotta be honest, man. When I hear these stories, about the Lakers not practicing, right? It it, it you really begin to, all you gotta do is look at all the evidence, man. Look at all the evidence over the past several years. And you begin to connect the dots, you use your common sense, and you come to the conclusion that although Frank Vogel is the head coach of the Lakers, he's not really the coach. He's more or less a figurehead. Kind of like how The Sopranos, if you ever watched that show, Uncle Junior was quote unquote the boss, but in reality, he really wasn't running things. It was Tony. He was the front boss. So, as far as the team is concerned, about who's in charge of the team, Frank Vogel is Uncle Junior, but LeBron is Tony. He's the street boss. Frank Vogel is the front boss, but he's not really in control. It's LeBron. Now, some people will be like, "That's ridiculous. He's just a player." And when people say that, I think they're being very facetious. I think they are being kind of naive. Now, is it like, am I insinuating that LeBron James can get everything he wants, and he can go into the office of the owner and demand this and demand that? No, but he does have a stronger level of influence than I think any player in recent memory for the Lakers, with the exception of Kobe Bryant. But it's up there, and you just gotta. We've seen this before. We've seen this before with the Cavaliers. Just 2 years ago, Isaiah Thomas, who was soon traded away, revealed in an interview that the Lakers rarely practice. Excuse me, not the Lakers. Excuse me, the Cavaliers rarely practiced 2 years ago when he was part of the team, and he was punished for admitting that by being traded not too long afterward, right? And here we are with the same situation. And it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that it coincides with the Lakers at one point in time playing like the best team in the NBA by far during the month of November. Although they did have an easier schedule, but still they were beating teams like they should have. They were blowing teams out. And now all of a sudden they're mired in a 3-game losing streak. And yeah, not practicing does, over the long haul, it hurts your team. It hurts your team. It can hurt chemistry. Practicing can help teams figure out other, schemes, and you just become sharper as a unit through practicing. And when you don't practice and you're just coming out there and just playing basketball, you tend to make more mistakes out there on the court. Things that you can correct and limit by practice, you're just going out there and playing. And look, I don't know too many championship teams, especially dominant championship teams, that have gotten by on just sheer talent alone. You have to become a cohesive unit and you have to put in that work. And I really believe when I say this, as great as LeBron James has been as a basketball player, he would be even better, right, if he had the privilege of playing under an alpha male coach or a great successful coach. Because when I think of all the coaches he's had, I think the closest he's had to an alpha male coach was Paul Silas, who was fired. All right. Apparently LeBron was involved in that. After that, I can't even really remember many of the coaches that they've had. I remember Mike Brown, who was a pushover, perfect for LeBron James. All right. Frank Vogel was a pushover. Uh, Tyronn Lue, I don't want to say he's a pushover, but I believe he's a personal friend of LeBron. So that therefore LeBron can kind of get his way with certain things. All right. Maybe the last guy that wasn't technically a pushover for LeBron was David Blatt, and he was fired. Spoelstra, I remember LeBron tried to have him fired, but I believe Pat Riley kind of, you know, quelled that. So it's like, I wonder how great LeBron would be if he ever had a great coach. Like, I think of Red Auerbach, right? Red Auerbach, to me, Red Auerbach and Phil Jackson are the two greatest coaches. And sometimes I might call Phil the greatest, but then sometimes I might say it's Red Auerbach because Red Auerbach was so revolutionary. He's the first coach to draft an African American, and I believe he was the first coach to draft African American. And before he got there in the mid 1950s, the Celtics were a pretty good team during the regular season. They were a high octane team led by Bob Cousy and Bill Sharman. Um, but the problem was their lack of size and rebounding. And Bill Russell remedied that. If you look at some of Bob Cousy's earlier numbers before 1956, his rebounding was much higher than it was afterward. And that's because he had to work at crashing the glass as far as rebounding is concerned. And that's why he got more of his triple doubles before Bill Russell got there. Most of his triple doubles. I think he had 31 or 33 career triple doubles or something like that. But anyway, the point is, when Bill Russell was drafted, that changed the team totally. But another aspect of why the Celtics were good for so long, it was their conditioning, the practice that they put in, the hard work. They worked harder than any other team, despite being the best team. And that's why they went from being a team that may have won 3 or 4 titles to a team that won 8 in a row and 11 of 13 overall in a span because they put in that work. Another team you got to think about is Showtime Lakers in the 1980s. If you ever look at some of those Lakers teams in the 1980s, one thing you will notice, there's not an ounce of fat on any of those guys. None of them. Because Pat Riley and the Lakers in their practices was legendary. They worked, especially that 85 team. That 85 team and those 87 teams. And the reason why I single those teams out is because of the embarrassment that they had. In 84, the Celtics won that series in 7. But Magic Johnson personally played poorly in that finals. And in 86, the year before the 87 team, they lost, and I think it was the conference finals to the Houston Rockets, who were a lesser team. So you better believe in practices. Pat Riley was on that team's ass. Okay? Like I said before, in the 80s, if you were a Laker fan, a disappointing season, a failure actually of a season, was not making it to the NBA Finals. That was a failure. A disappointing season was losing in the finals. That's how high the stakes were, and that's how high the expectations were for Laker fans and Magic Johnson and Kareem and all those guys in the 1980s. Pat Riley was the perfect coach for that era. Yeah, he was, dapper, suave with the haircut, with the slick back hair and the great suits, the Armani suits and all that. But don't get it twisted. Pat Riley was a fearsome, physical, tough role player for the Lakers in the early 1970s. And when he came from the booth and was an assistant coach for Jerry West before Jerry West gave the coaching up and said, "Hey, make Pat Riley the coach. This is the guy that should be the coach." That's the reason why, partially one of the reasons why they were so successful. It was Magic, it was Kareem, yeah, but Pat Riley was the dude, man, and he helped to turn around the New York Knicks. All right, he took that Pat Riley showed that he could coach any style. He could take a Showtime team and make them a champion. He could take a hard-nosed, defensive, half-court orientated team like the Knicks, and he made them great. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, the Knicks could have possibly won at least 2 championships. You know what I'm saying? Phil Jackson, the same thing. Phil Jackson, he helped to make Michael Jordan what he was. Before Phil Jackson, Michael was coached by guys like, no disrespect to them, but he was coached by guys like Kevin Lottery and Stan Auerbach. And Doug Collins let Michael kind of do what he wanted to do. During the Doug Collins years, Michael averaged 37, 35, and had a season that LeBron would dream of having. He averaged 33, 8, and 8 on 53% shooting, I think. Led the league in steals. Had a had a span of 10 triple doubles in 15 games. He played at point guard. You know what I'm saying? He was showing what he could do. But Phil Jackson became the coach and said, "Look, you're never going to win a championship dominating the ball the way you are, playing the way you're playing. Your teammates have to get more involved. You got to learn to play off the ball." First, Michael didn't like it because he felt like it was stymieing his game. But eventually, he bought into the triangle offense. He bought into Phil's philosophy. And 6 championships later, Michael's generally seen as the GOAT. Look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, when he first came to the league, he felt like he had to prove something. He had to prove that he was the best player in the world. You know what I'm saying? And at first, Kobe felt like when Phil was there the first time, the triangle offense was holding him back. It was holding him back. It was holding him back. Although they won that three-peat, but he felt like it was holding him back. So when Phil left and Kobe was able to do what he wanted to do, he had all these phenomenal scoring performances. But then he realized that I need Phil back. I guess he got out of his system, showing what he could do, but he wanted to win. and he needed Phil Jackson to win. He needed a great coach. Greg Popovich belongs in this conversation as well. Now, LeBron James is able to win 3 championships. All right, he was able to win 3 championships, but you can make the argument that part of the reason why he had a 3-6 record in the finals wasn't always that his team was overmatched. Sometimes you can make the argument that some of the teams that he was going against simply had better coaching, or his teams were outcoached. In particular, with that's the last Spurs team that he lost to. Also, what comes to mind is Rick Carlisle with the Mavericks. You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, man, basically what I'm saying is, if the Lakers are going to go through this shit again with, not practicing and LeBron projecting his image in the media as being this uber warrior along the lines of Russell and Bird and Magic and Kobe and Jordan and all these other great competitors, but in reality he's kind of being a little lazy. You can't do that. You can't do that, especially now. This isn't the Eastern Conference. This isn't the Eastern Conference that you was playing, in your prime, when the only competition you had at the beginning was an aging Celtics team, Paul George and the Pacers, and DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, the Raptors. You can't get away with mediocrity in the Western Conference. It's not going to work. All right? It's not going to work. It takes more than talent. It takes more than having a bunch of really good players in your team to win a championship. You got to put in that work. You got to put in that work. And that's why, I look at guys like Kawhi Leonard, you know what I'm saying, and the way that he's mentally made up. People can sit there and say this guy's lazy, low management, whatever, but Kawhi Leonard already has shit planned out now. Kawhi Leonard came into this season with shit already planned out. That guy's a methodical monster. People really sleep on Kawhi Leonard. And, they did it last year, and the Raptors won the championship with a guy that didn't want to be there in the first place. Now he's on a team he wants to be there. Like I'm telling people, like, look, Kawhi Leonard is like, he's just going through the motions right now. His level of play has improved, and the load management thing must be working because his level of play has improved. All right. At one point in time when his knee really was hurting him, I think he missed like 3 consecutive games or 3 out of 4 games or something like that. He was averaging like 23 points, 41% shooting, 29% from 3 or something like that. And now he's averaging almost 26 on 46% shooting, 36% from 3. His numbers are rising. 8 rebounds, 5 assists, you know what I'm saying, almost 2 steals. That's why I said, man, look, this is going to be a fun season, but coaching, I disagree with Shaq on one thing. He said that in the NBA, coaching doesn't really matter. It's the players. And I think when you watch the finals, coaching does matter. Coaching matters. And the fact that Frank Vogel can't seem to implement a guy like Kyle Kuzma in their offense, and they keep over-relying on LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the Clippers have like 4 or 5 offensive weapons deep, you know what I'm saying? And even with the Rockets, they're third. They're like what, third in the Western Conference. They don't even have Eric Gordon. I don't think the Rockets will win the title, but you never know, man. A team could just get hot. You don't know, man. So basically, what I'm saying is just like, I'm not doing this as a diss to LeBron James, man, but I do think one of the things that holds him back is he's never had a coach that's really held him accountable and held his feet to the fire. You know what I'm saying? The closest thing he's ever had to that was Pat Riley when he was with Miami, and Riley wasn't even the head coach. You know what I'm saying? So The fact that they're barely practicing really is alarming. You know, but tell me what you guys think, man.